what's up? It's your boy Naj J. Richard here from Talk To Me Talk Show. We're discussing various topics about our people, our youth, and our future. And we are back for another season here on Talk To Me Talk Show, where we got a new season, new topic, new guests, as you can see, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves too, right after we get into the topic of the day. So today's topic of the day is gonna be about parenting yourself. So I chose this topic because I realized a lot of things that I've been going through lately when I had to parent myself. So having conversations with these gentlemen too, I realized that it's other ways that I had to parent myself based off of my experiences that were different from theirs. So I felt that it was a great time to ask, how do you have to parent yourself? So as you watch this video, take in some of this knowledge and information and think about when you have to parent yourself versus being now in the situation that you're in and teaching somebody else those things too. So first start off with you, because we had a little conversation earlier, but you weren't here. So now that you're here, when did you realize that I have to parent myself, I have to be my own parent in certain situations?
I mean, if we're gonna talk about parenting ourselves, I had to take it back to when my parents were out of the picture. You know, I wasn't there with them on a day-to-day basis. So as soon as I got to college, that was a wrap for me. You know, my parents also and my brother moved to Oklahoma, so I went down to Georgia and they went to Oklahoma, so it was about 16 hours away. Yeah, so you know, that was the time I realized they ain't around to help me out and tell me, you know, what I need to be doing and keeping me on the right path. So that was the time for me to go ahead and take initiative to start parenting myself. That was my first year of college. So anybody that's been in college knows very well that you have to parent yourself to get through, or you're not gonna make it. I've seen a lot of people who needed parents there while we were at school, but shoot, I needed parents myself, but I had to do what I had to do for myself and give myself that push to get through. So you definitely need to know how to parent yourself, especially if you're in school. Definitely. So that was probably the start for me. About 2014, freshman year of college.
So
what year?
2014.
For me personally, it started for me my sophomore year of high school, because that was around the time we were starting to think about entering college, and so that was the whole time of like, okay, now you start registering for your classes here in high school, getting you ready for when you got to do it when you're in college. And so, you know, I was still just playing basketball, you know, messing around with females and stuff like that, having fun. So I wasn't thinking too much about that, even though it was in the back of my mind. But I had missed registering for classes like the first meeting or something like my sophomore year. And I went home and my mom, she chewed me out about it. And then I thought about it later, and I started to realize, I was like, yeah, I mean, I might as well. I'm like, it's no one else is gonna live my life except for me. So like, if it started right now, I might as well just do it. So ever since then, I took on the
stuff like just transitioning, and like my parents were just already ready to let go. You know, they had threw a lot of responsibilities on me like at that time, and then like at the end of my freshman year of college was when it really got real, because I was like kind of messing around and stuff, and I was playing ball, but like it wasn't going the way I expected to go. And my parents was like, well, you got to make a choice. It's like, it's either we're going to leave you out here by yourself, because they was ready to move back to the East Coast. And so at that time, it was like, they were like, well, it's either you going to move back home and start your life, or stay out here and figure it out. And, you know, so I had to make that choice. And I think that was probably one of the biggest life-changing things that I've done.
my biggest thing for me, parenting myself, was like, I jumped ship before I was ready.
Right.
So when I was my senior year in high school, I think like I had all my stuff packed on that Wednesday. I told my mom like, hey, I done made a deal with my Stella. I'm moving down there to Henderson. Mine had 2 houses. Mine had a farm with 2 houses. She said, if all your grades are good and stuff and you graduate, I'll let you stay in the other house when you graduate. I said, all right, cool. Got all good grades, got the deal done, moved in with her. I moved out literally the day after graduation. So moving in with her, I'm still thinking in my head like, all right, I'm still gonna get the same food being cooked for me and stuff like that. I'm still gonna be taking places and stuff like that. Even though I had my license, but I still didn't have a car at the time because my car was messed up. So now me being an adult was living in her house, saying like, okay, My aunt is going to work. I'm being an adult now. I'm fresh out of high school. I ain't got a job.
Yeah.
I'm in a house by myself. My aunt is in the other house. She's not even in my house. I'm in the house by myself. I know how to cook. I know how to clean. I know how to fend for myself. So now those things that I learned from back then now came back into me thinking, now I gotta be my own parent.
Yeah.
Because there are people around me who can give me parental guidance.
Yeah.
But there are times and situations where now I have to be my own parent. And one of the other biggest things we talked about as far as like parenting yourself in situations was me parenting myself through relationships too. Relationships, friendships, responsibilities. Knowing that there are things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do. My biggest thing in life is I can't do what I want to do until I do what I need to do.
Alright.
So I had to parent myself through sports. So parenting myself through sports was, I'm on the basketball team. I'm in middle school, it's fun, I got a C. My mom took me off the team. Following year, I come in and play baseball. I'm ready to play ball and everything. Mom take me off the team the day that I get the call from the coach to play. I had practice that Wednesday. He called me that Sunday. So now coming back to it, I couldn't do what I wanted to do until I do what I need to do.
Right.
My grades and everything had to be right so I could be in these situations and these predicaments. And now I realize that if I don't have a job and these responsibilities, I can't do what I want to do until I do what I need to do.
And those things kind of, what we call those are consequences, you know what I'm saying, for your actions. But I also learned that I was really parenting myself. Like I said, when I got to school, and my actions in return had consequences, but those consequences only affected me. You know, my parents wasn't there to get me out of trouble or to be by my side when things happen. You know what I'm saying? I had to face those bullets myself and take that to the chin, and handle that as a man. You know what I'm saying? I had to be responsible and accountable for my actions, and that was a coming of age type moment for me, realizing like ain't nobody here gonna bail me out.
Nope.
And whatever come my way, I gotta eat that by myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if it came down to it where I might have gotten put out of school, my parents would have been looking at me like that's on you, not me. You know what I'm saying? Like they did everything that they could to get me to where I was at. You know what I'm saying? And it was up to me, and they let me know that like, hey, they were saying when you turn 18, boy, you gotta go somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, or if you're gonna stay here, you gotta be doing something. Right, yeah. It wasn't no sitting around and enjoying the luxuries of life that your parents provided for you because you their child, but you gotta get up and get out of the mud yourself too.
I started to go into overdrive on planning, legit planning, not just scheming, trying to hustle for a quick dollar or be in the moment for having a good time and this and that because I'm making a quick dollar. It was like, nah, I'm planning on some. What am I going to eat? Where am I going to stay? How's my? I was thinking about
You
all
always
this
need
kind
to
of stuff.
supply for yourself because when parents parenting you, they supply.
They're supplying, but I had to jump out. I was cannonballing into life, so I was like, nah, you know, I gotta start figuring it out. So yeah.
When we say parenting yourself, first of all, nobody has it all together when you first start out, and that goes for literally our parents, and then us when we are parenting ourselves. There's different levels to it.
But it's okay.
It is,
Okay.
and you learn along the way. Like my brother said, like it did start out where when we got back, we was on people's couches. You know what I'm saying? Like I left a bed from college. It might not be no king size, but it was at least a bed in a room with a roof. You know what I'm saying? In a building, like
There's some heat, some air
right,
conditioning.
you know what I'm saying?
Right. That trip to the cab is different. Like
It
when you're
was.
an adult, when you're an adult and you can't get up in the morning and walk to the cab,
bro. Oh God,
Ooh, it's out, bro.
And that goes with my fault.
No,
That
go
goes with parenting as well. Our parents ain't have it right when they first had us. You know what I'm saying? It was trial and error. And after one kid, now you have a second one. It's like, oh, we been through this. This is level 2. Let's try these new things. But even then, again, it's still a different situation. You have more on your plate, more responsibility. You know what I'm saying? That you have to take care of 2 kids now, not 1. So it's a different level of parenting, and that's the same thing that we're going through with life. We started out in an apartment. We was like, okay, well, this is cool. Well, we're getting comfortable here. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like that. This ain't for everything. Like, I already understand that with real estate. I'm not about to keep paying this rent for something that I won't ever own. So we decided to take it to another level. Okay, let's look for a house. We saw that it was possible. We did it. You know what I'm saying? But now it's a different level of problems that we're dealing with at the house now. We ain't got maintenance to come fix our heater. You know what I'm saying? No, sir, you got to outsource and go call a whole company to come fix your stuff, and you coming out of pocket, it ain't covered. You know what I'm saying? So different levels is going to teach you that there's different things to be responsible for. There's different problems that'll come up. So,
and like you said, like parenting yourself, like parenting myself after school was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, because I always tell people I probably moved 8, 9, 10 times within the past 3 years.
okay.
And that comes from me being in grad school and during COVID, where class is about to be on campus, and I moved from one place to another and it's not.
Yeah.
So now I'm spending money to, one, pack up all my stuff and relocate. I'm not moving down the street, I'm moving to a whole other city.
Yeah.
I'm moving to a whole other town, I'm moving to a whole other county and all that. So I get to a point where it's just like, I'm tired of doing this moving around. Because now in parenting myself, I'm seeing that I want to be in a situation where I have everything together.
Right.
For me personally, I always say success for me is stability. It's not about money, it's stability. So right now, in my opinion, where I'm at, I'm successful and I'm happy. I can go to bed with a smile on my face because, one, I do things for other people that makes me smile before I go to sleep.
Okay.
I don't go to sleep with negative thoughts, because in my mind, I'm always helping other people, or other people always helping me in some way, or I'm learning from somebody else.
Right.
And within adult education, we say you can't consider yourself an adult educator without being an adult learner first.
Okay.
So with me now learning all of this stuff, I am in this phase where I'm parenting myself from moving around so much and wanting to be stable. All that, but basically to say all of that was going on and stuff, and then ended up falling behind on bills because I wasn't making as much money as I needed to supply for myself, number one, and take care of my consequences. So I'm now in a situation where I'm staying with my homegirl, now I'm staying with my brother, now I'm staying with my girlfriend. So I'm staying with her, and all that's cool, and it's nice for her, let me stay with her. But it's still where it's like, I'm in a situation where now back to parenting myself, I don't want to be in this situation where she's not saying where she's doing everything, but last year to where it was where I can't help and supply for her while supplying for myself.
Right.
Because that comes back to also parenting. Because when you're parenting a child, you're still parenting yourself. Like you said, when you have that first child, it's an experience. So now you're going back to parenting yourself as a parent. So now I'm parenting myself in a relationship.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And even back to what I told y'all a little bit earlier, I had a conversation with my girl. This was probably like last March when all of that stuff was going on. I told her, I said, look, I'm getting us out of this apartment. I was staying with her. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. I said, we moving out of this apartment. I said, give me till September. I'm paying off all of these bills. All of this stuff is being done. I'm getting you out of this apartment. We're moving into a house. I don't want no townhouse. I don't want no apartment. I don't want no loft. We're getting a house with a backyard or something with 2 floors.
Okay.
We're getting out of this, and I'm going to show you that. And literally, through parenting myself, through my consequences and my finances, at the end of September, we applied for the house and got approved 3 days later.
When did it really start happening? It's like, okay, so sophomore year was when I stepped into that whole manhood of like, okay, I got to do my whole thing, you know. And I've always been heavy in my whole spiritual walk, so I always was practicing biblical principles. And one of them was saying, put away childish things once I became a man. I started to, when I was a child, I thought like one, spoke like one.
That's what I live by.
And, you know what I mean? And thought like one. But once you become a man, you got to stop thinking and acting and behaving like a child.
Yeah.
So it started happening for me when I was 16. But once I got to the collegiate level, I wasn't even thinking about where I was anymore because I had stopped thinking like a child. I started to think in more of like a long-term type of shit as opposed to just live in the moment. I was like, I mean, that's cool, but I'm thinking about future things now. So when I got to college, I was already thinking about what I'm gonna be doing after I graduate because I was thinking on business and sales and all that stuff like that. So I really started parenting myself when I started to have that feeling of wanting to drop out. Because that was really on some real deal. Like if I'm going to leave, because all my life my parents my mom especially was instilling in my mind of like, this is the only route to go as a black man in America to do anything. You have to go to school, graduate, get your job, and do your thing, this or like that, business, whatever you want to be in. And so when I was actually in the system of the whole college thing and started to see what I was doing outside of being in school, because I was getting internships and stuff outside of college that were really showing me what was going on. So I was just like, nah, this isn't it. This isn't me wasting time and money. So I started to be like, but if I drop out, okay, I always say I'm a follower of Christ. Now, he didn't come preaching a religion. He came preaching the truth about the kingdom of heaven, where he is now, all that kind of stuff like that. I respect everybody's religion because the Bible says to. Anybody that's got whatever, as long as it's not something that's going against, widows, messing with the children, and you're not conforming to the ways of the world and stuff like that, then, our religion, God's cool with that. So I follow Christ in his example. So the people that wrote stuff in the Bible about relationships and marriage and stuff like that, I tend to parent myself off of everything. Everything I am about is I'm parented off of me following scripture, which is Christ. My parents didn't give me any type of sex talk. I didn't get any type of this how you should treat a woman relationship. I had a sister, so I was able to be around her and my mom enough to be able to be like, to study women and see how they respond to me being just being me, because I've always just been me. I've never not been a man. So it's like I've always been myself around women, and I see like, okay, so this is how it is, blah blah blah. But when it came down to relationships, it was always like, my dad was like, my mom, she was more so on like, if you make sure that you wrap up when you get this. So on both of those, I'm like, so ain't nobody saying nothing about relationships, marriage, or nothing in both of these scenarios. All they talk about is get some ass. So I was trying to be a good, wholesome person to be like, nah, I want to treat these women right. So like what you were saying, I love, like, okay, sex is great, it's beautiful, but it's like it's a soul spiritual thing with a man and a woman when they do that. So I'm always about the get to know this person. I love the connection that you can have with a person in that kind of way. So I'm still figuring out this whole relationship. I don't know my life, and I'm just gonna be single for the rest of my life and just have experiences with beautiful ladies as God allows. But I'm just saying, like, I'm parenting myself through all of this, is what I'm saying. I'm parenting myself through. And you can live a single life. Nobody got it together. It says it in the Bible. You can live a single life. Nobody has it all together. As long as you do it right. Paul says, as long as you ain't taking advantage of nobody, manipulating nobody, y'all two consenting adults, and y'all or whatever, and then y'all both like, yeah, let's knock some books.
Don't nobody know when you wrong. Don't nobody know when you wrong more than you do. You feel it. You feel when you wrong. You feel when you wrong. So
your spirit knows.
But it's up to you to be strong enough to make the right decisions, because we do fall victim as humans. You know what I'm saying? It's in our DNA.
For me, bro, I hopped off the porch quick.
Yeah,
and
his story. Yeah.
My birds and the bees happened when my situations happened. So it was really no explaining. I always explain the birds and the bees to my parents.
So when I like a woman,
it was just like,
you put that ass on my some things happen.
I just hopped off the porch and they caught me in the act, and it was just, I had to explain, like, this is what I do, and as long as y'all know that I'm safe. And so, like, my dad, he was explaining, our grandpa, he wasn't there like that. And so if it was my dad in my situation, his dad would have been like, oh yeah, I'm proud of you, way to tap that ass, you know what I'm saying? But my dad is a pastor, you know what I'm saying? So he had a different approach on it, and he wasn't mad at me, but it was just like, I had to be cognitive of what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm bringing people around and doing all types of crazy shit at a young age, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like, I learned early, you know what I'm saying? And there ain't nothing wrong with learning early, because early experience is the best experience in my life.
I learned from somebody else too. It's better to deal with things now that you're young versus dealing with it when you're later. Well, dealing with it once you're older. My conversation with one of my professors one time, I asked him like, I want to go ahead and pursue my PhD. He said, how old are you? I said, I'm 20. Well, at the time, I was 25. So I was like, I'm 25 and I want to go ahead and do it. Like, I'm about to get my master's. I'll be 26. I want to jump ship and go for it. He said, honestly, in my opinion, I say do it. And he said, I say do it because you don't want to wait later like I did and gain that experiences, which is cool, but you would rather already have that done on paper.
Right.
Then you have the rest of that time to enjoy it and build on that experience.
Yeah.
Because the experience is always going to be there. But that one-time thing, which was overcoming that obstacle and getting my master's, honestly, for me, was one of the hardest things where I also had to parent myself. Because I got all these goals and dreams and ambitions, but I started to lose motivation. Because now back to parenting myself, I don't got my mom there pushing me and saying, go ahead, you can do it. Where your book bag at? And putting my folder on the table. Taking out my homework when I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
So now I had to be my own parent and literally stay up till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, working on papers, working on projects. Like, all of that stuff was so crazy. And now that I see it, like he said, I would rather kill myself now and wake up and rise again versus dying through this whole experience.
Yeah,
because I couldn't enjoy it.
crazy we talking about timing, because I was just sitting over here having a mind-boggling conversation with myself while I was listening to y'all. And one, we just said that the earlier the better. But then I also thought about, is earlier always better? Because
Consequence-wise.
well,
It really depends.
well, I would say, because if we talking about the parenting aspect, I didn't have to be my own parent as a kid. You know what I'm saying? But that's not everybody's situation. Because I've seen a lot of people, I grew up with a lot of people who had to parent themselves. I've seen the conditions of their household, and the parents may be there, but the parents aren't there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they at that time, these kids were parenting themselves. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them wasn't doing good, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, a lot, like, I understand the pressure is real. You know what I'm saying? And you have to do it when it's not provided for you. But that doesn't mean that they was doing it good, bro. Like, and that is because they were exposed to,
Like, that's the thought process that I went through with me wanting to parent myself in that whole atmosphere of like business and sales and stuff. Like how you were saying, oh yeah, it's time for me to go get I'm about to get the master's. I need to go ahead and get my PhD. Keeping yourself on that track. So like when I ended up working at a car dealership. That was one of the internships I got before I left school. So when I left school, they kept me and I kept working there while I was learning sales, because they wanted me to go into car sales and everything. And while I was doing that, I was stacking money. I was able to move out, have my own apartment and stuff, and I was, about to start a company and all of that. So while doing all of those things, I started to understand, like I was saying earlier, I couldn't go to my parents for the kind of knowledge to even do any of this. I couldn't come to them and be like, how did you guys figure out financial stability and, have like $1 million tucked away while you continue to do whatever you were doing? They wouldn't have been able to give me that understanding. Financial literacy isn't something that was discussed in my household. So I had to figure that out on my own, and I had to go and find it. And while I wasn't getting it in school, this is me. Because I was studying entrepreneurship and business, but it just wasn't working because the people weren't entrepreneurs. They weren't running businesses or keeping spreadsheets and keeping up with their taxes and all this other kind of stuff like that. They were just teaching you a curriculum. So when I went out to the world and was learning the financial stability, the financial literacy, I was like, oh man, there's a whole world that I had no idea about.
Yeah, like you also gotta be their parent too.
right?
Yeah, and I have to teach I gotta bring that back to my family and stuff. So like, I was like, I have to get on this, or else I'm not going to be able to survive in this dog eat dog world, for the overused banal term.